Okay, so the government calls us all far-right extremists. The left call me a racist, and the neo-Nazis think I'm a Jew. I'm not Jewish. I support the libertarian principle of don't kill the Jews. Yes, I am a libertarian. I believe that we are governed by free will. In the past 4 years, I have radically changed my political views on major issues. I can give you a list of my current views, but hey, I can change my mind anytime I want. I am a libertarian. I own my own thoughts, mind, and body, and I will take in information, change my opinion according to the situation, but consistently throughout time, I am pro freedom, or to be practical, maximizing the amount of freedom we have to make society better. Emphasis on making society better. So I'll be aligned with the F.A. Hayek style of libertarianism as opposed to the American version of libertarianism. So here are a few of my current views I could change. Well, COVID was definitely a money making scam. I believe that most things are a money making scam. Ireland definitely needs mass deportations and build more houses for native Irish people. I don't really care about abortion one way or the other. I did not vote in the abortion referendum. Men can't get pregnant. That's a fact that you can't change. And I like dancing Jews. If Jewish people are dancing in a desert somewhere, you should not murder them. So, before I decided to be a champion of Irish Jews in 2020, I was a peace loving hippie, playing music in Malta. I didn't wear any shoes for like 9 months straight. That's what my life was like. Teaching English, playing music on the beach, mega super hippie. I was an online teacher for an English teaching company, which is why I knew about the craziness of COVID before everyone else in the West. I tried to warn people, but no one cared. I was like, hey, I'm talking to my Chinese students. They're not allowed to go outside. Everything is shutting down. The company I'm working for, I'm pretty sure, is going to collapse. But, hey, we're not a communist country. The government's not going to take our freedoms, right? Well, on the 11th of March, I was selling a musical instrument to a man who lived up the hill walk up a big hill to get to him. Then his very polite cleaner came in. And she was squirting people's hands with this cleaning spray before she would shake your hands. She wanted to be polite, but also not want to die of the flu. I didn't know that COVID was officially declared a pandemic at the time because I speak petite Maltese, but not fluent, so I wasn't getting the government propaganda at the time. So I didn't really care about the new restrictions when they came in because Malta is hot and it's generally empty most of the year. So in winter time, there's no one around. So when you say to people you can't go indoors and everything has to close, well, everything's closed anyway, and you stay outside. So it didn't really affect me in any practical way until they made the masks mandatory for going outdoors and when you're on the beach. Like, you stay on the beach and you have to wear a mask. But you're allowed to not wear a mask if you're smoking. So, being a mega hippie, without any shoes, I had a kitten at the time, a stray cat that I took in. Everywhere I'd go, walk around with my kitten. I had not been in a physical fight in 6 years because Malta is a peaceful country in comparison to Ireland. So one day, some random Arab guy punched me in the face. He's going, blah, 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 boom. And that's when it hit me. Even if I choose to be peaceful, other people are going to choose violence. So, the lockdown conditions eventually ruined my music career, and the company I worked for closed down. I was told by my family in Ireland that Ireland had good tech jobs and the government takes care of people. Neither of which are true. I ruined my life by selling all my stuff, giving up my beloved cat, my 2-bedroom flat by the beach, and moving to Ireland. Malta had closed its borders at the time, so leaving meant not coming back. While it was nice seeing trees again, Ireland being green and Malta being yellow, it was an awful shock to discover that both music and dancing were banned in Ireland at the time. And seriously, the idea of telling Irish people you couldn't sing and dance, I thought there was going to be a revolution. But there wasn't. So, but hey, good news. The day I arrived in Ireland was the day I quit smoking altogether. Because Ireland is so expensive that I quit smoking. So that's a positive. So, my friends I went to school with wouldn't meet up because they're all afraid of COVID. And I haven't seen anyone from my school since then. And in Malta, people weren't that paranoid. We were just told, like, eat vegetables, go out for a walk. We had different... In Malta had different stupid rules, and Ireland had a completely different set of stupid rules. So it completely threw out the idea that the COVID policies were, like, scientifically chosen by experts if every country had a different bunch of stupid rules. So I didn't even get my COVID payment, even though I was legitimately looking for a job, because I was told that the lockdown was coming to an end. But the lockdown actually went on for like over 2 years. Like, I mean, the restrictions went up and down, but businesses were closing down. There wasn't jobs. I could only find part-time work. Couldn't find full-time work for like, I think it's going to be a year and a half to get a full-time job. So like less than 2 years to get a full-time job. I did manage to get a distinction in my AI degree, so that was an achievement, but that didn't matter because of hyperinflation. IT jobs in Ireland don't cover the bills. Nurses, teachers, tech workers, Garda are not able to pay the rent, and if I was to marry a nurse, we wouldn't be able to buy a house. I have met nurses that live in homeless shelters. I have met taxi drivers who live in their cars. So there's women at night getting a taxi and you're getting into the bedroom of the guy you're getting into a taxi with, because like it's his car, his business place, and his home, which is weird. And the first year of COVID, homelessness tripled. Where I was living was just flooded with homeless tents, and it absolutely broke my heart to see the amount of homeless people in Ireland, and it's gotten worse since then. No one really cares. I contacted the Lord Mayor at the time. It was named Hazel Chow. I told her, with the social isolation, the only choice I have is to talk to the people that the government calls right-wing extremists. Whereas now in Ireland, the government calls everyone a right-wing extremist. You want a job, right-wing extremist. You want to live in a house, right-wing extremist. You don't like stabbing children, right-wing extremist. You don't want to kill the Jews, you're a right-wing extremist. Yeah. So while we didn't know what the government was planning at the time, if you fast forward to this year, the government is shaking hands with Palestinian terrorists that have murdered an Irish woman, kidnapped an Irish child, and murdered an Irish soldier. They're giving €20 million to Lebanon as a runner prize for trying to kill the Jews. So, that's the current state of Ireland. go back to the lockdown, here's a list of Nazi-like policies the Irish government implemented during the lockdown. Declaring that everything is done scientifically, despite that nothing in Ireland actually works properly. Micheál Martin actually declared that Irish people have no absolute rights, despite that the Constitution says that we do. The Constitution refers to our rights as fundamental, because it was written just before the concept of human rights became popular. The science advocacy groups said that the government had to go after everybody who disagreed with them at the time, and these groups believed that men can become women and get pregnant. The government told people that you'll lose your jobs if you speak out and disagree with the government, and they still have these doxing campaigns where they pay communists to harass people and make sure they lose their jobs. And of course, famously being told that unvaccinated people needed to be isolated from society. And of course, we were forced to use vaccine passes to prove that we used a medical product that we knew at the time didn't work. We were told the vaccines weren't going to stop the spread. If you were my age, you were at risk of getting a heart attack, but we were forced to take them. Anyway, I didn't take it. And if anyone wants to go toe-to-toe with me on the COVID data, I am now qualified as a data scientist, and I have proven that the vaccines don't stop the spread. But we already knew that at the start, but we now know it's 2024. The Irish government doesn't believe in facts. So I got involved in the protest movement when it was illegal to go more than 5 kilometers away from your home. I always wore a jacket with a rip on it, so when the Garda stopped me and asked me where I was going, I could tell them I'm going to the tailor, which at the time was one of the legitimate reasons to leave your town. That time period lasted 4 months or something. Absolutely, the restriction on your movement, not going indoors, lasted for a year. So I found people who used to go to an underground cafe. So at the time we couldn't go indoors, but we found this cafe that served food, and we would go inside, and there was lawyers, judges. It was like a speakeasy. It was a weird time. We were the only people who could go indoors, and they were selling wine. We would go to parties. I was a musician in Malta, and lockdown kind of stopped me from playing music. But during the lockdown, I did organise with other people to play gigs in public places. So when there was a curfew and you weren't allowed out after 8 p.m, we had big speakers, we played a big show in the middle of Grafton Street, and the riot police came and just beat everyone up. But we kept playing music to the riot police beating people up. And we all know that none of these policies actually improved anything. The virus spread, killed people, and 95% of the people died in state care. So people like me didn't get sick, and we didn't die. So one of the most painful things that's ever happened in my life, worse than getting hit by a car, worse than vomiting up my own fermented poo, and worse than gallstones, was being betrayed by my family. Was the worst pain that I ever felt. My fact that my family would regularly tell me that the government should force me to do things I knew was bad for me, and that I was unwanted for being vaccinated. It absolutely broke my heart. To this day, nobody has ever apologized to me, and I will never forgive them. And I probably will never, ever forgive them for happening, because 4 years have passed. No one's apologized to me. We have to live with this forever, that our friends and family will go against us in an emergency situation when we should be coming together to build hospitals, homes, and more Garda on the street. I don't talk to most of my family because of this. So there's definitely a connection between believing government nonsense, going along with the COVID nonsense, and then 4 years later, going along with the Irish government's plan for some reason to kill the Jews. Gotta hate someone, right? So at some point, I went to Spain to look for work, but when I went to Spain went back into lockdown. Ireland opened up. Ireland didn't end the lockdown because there was mass protest or businesses were closing down, record levels of homeless, crime. Ireland went from the lowest amount of rape to the highest amount of rape in Ireland. Ireland opened up for the Ukrainians. Ukrainians get job programs, free housing, government institutions to look after them. Whereas an Irishman like me, who had to sell everything, give it a cash, lose my friends and family, 4 years later, I have still not been given a jobs program or assistance with living. So I'm constantly doing courses, applying for jobs. Every year I've moved and I've lived in a different location. That's what's like for most people who are under 40 at the moment, but Ukrainians, Palestinian terrorists, Afghans, all sorts of random people have government institutions that will look after them. So we have billions of euros spent every year on illegal migrants coming to our country and stabbing children. And we're still not told why is this allowed to happen. So I believe 2022, I was on the bus on North Strand, and up until then, I've been a very pro-peace, peace-loving hippie, anti-war, anti-racism, open borders. And then one day, saw all this commotion in East Wall, 600 people protesting outside the new asylum centre. And that's when I realised, of course, this makes sense. I'm struggling to find work. I'm probably never going to be able to own property in Ireland, and I will always be a second-class citizen in my own country. But they're spending billions on these people to live here for free, and it doesn't make any sense, most of which are coming from countries where there are no war, like Georgia, Albania, Algeria, Nigeria. Most of Africa doesn't have a war, so they shouldn't be coming here. Most of Ukraine doesn't have a war. It would be cheaper just to build houses in Ukraine, has them there, or why not hire me to work for the Ukrainian army and I could live there. It would actually be cheaper. I actually volunteered for the Ukrainian army, doing IT work, hacking Russian military targets, banks, and all that kind of stuff. I probably should have mentioned everything I did with the Ukrainian army because it's kind of illegal, but obviously we're allied with Ukraine, so hopefully that's not going to be a problem. So, got involved with this national protest movement, and we were hated at the start, but now it's a few years later. The vast majority of people in Ireland want to get rid of the asylum centres, and we've successfully prevented dozens of these asylum centres from being created. And if you look at the housing prices, rent, it is not possible for the average Irish person to live in our own country, and we still cannot talk to our TDs. There's an election coming in a few weeks. No effort has been put to talk to the Irish people to ask us what policies do we want to make our country better. We are second-class citizens in our own country. So, my favourite part of protests was there was only like 20 of us. We did this like a few times. We'd go up to Dublin Airport, block the two roads, and successfully block the airport for 2 hours. At the beginning of the protest, the media used to report on the protests, but now I won't get into this this bit, but like there isn't private sector media in Ireland anymore. They all have government contracts, and they government propaganda. But it was quite fun blocking those roads and chanting for 2 hours. No passport, no entry. Border security is every nation's duty, which I'm sure Israelis, yes, you definitely need border security in this world. So we have successfully broken the taboo of migration control. Nobody would talk about it. Now it's what everybody wants to talk about. And the government has since then implemented migration control policies that we wanted. So instead of calling us far right, we were right all along. And this is why Ireland needs to be a democratic, free country that includes all citizens in its decision making. Voting doesn't work. Political parties doesn't work. The government needs to talk to us. We need free speech. We need the right to protest. We need to have direct democracy. But some other time I'll go into that. I did try giving party politics a go, but politics is drama. I'm not good at running elections and do that kind of stuff. I'm not going to badmouth any particular people. Life is like this. My aptitude is more about policy than winning votes. Like, I am a data scientist, so I want to freely analyze things without having to, have a popularity competition. By the way, I've proven that inflation is caused by the money supply, but no one really cares about that. This is really frustrating. It's like we use science to prove things, and society just doesn't care. It's just like the government wants people to believe in nonsense. So there you go. I've proven it. The banking system is making us poor. Look into Bitcoin. Blockchain technology is the future. I spent some time living near the mountains, near the Wicklow Mountains, cycling around, looking for derelict buildings to try and renovate, because I managed to work. I was working for St. Vincent de Paul. I worked for large IT companies at some point. So there was a time when I could, in theory, get a loan from the bank to buy property. And this was, housing crisis, no chance you're going to be able to pay rent. But after I read all the planning regulations in Wicklow and several other counties, it is impossible to buy a house and even build a shed. 3 Irish people this year have been put in jail for building homes on their own property during a housing crisis. That is the world we live in. So why am I laughing at this part? I have spent most of the past 4 years constantly thinking about different ways to kill myself. Drowning, hanging, or slit, probably most likely. In Ireland, you can just tell people this. Like, you can just tell your friends and family, doctors, therapists, that you're suicidal, depressed. No one cares. No one cares. This is Ireland. Nobody gives a damn. Suicide is skyrocketing. No one cares, right? Irish people don't care about each other whatsoever. Like, I don't see or speak to people for days or weeks on end. Like, if I died, no one's going to my funeral. Nobody cares. So, I did manage to start reading the Bible. I've read the Bible in both English and Irish at the same time. I had an app that could translate it. And now I'm starting to look into learning the Bible in Hebrew. Actually, learning the Bible in Hebrew actually just makes more sense, because there's words in English that we have put into the Bible that aren't actually there, and Hebrew just has some concepts that we don't have English words for. So it completely changes the meaning and the intent of the Bible. And actually, focusing on particular Bible phrases actually calms my mind down. And hey, I'm not a perfect person. You can see my online persona for the past few years. Sometimes I get very aggressive. But hey, I'm a human being. I'm a fallible human being. And I'm guilty of original sin. Which is, in my opinion, this is probably the cause of depression. the pride of believing that you know better than God. So, I have attended prayer services for Israel. I gave myself the goal of seeing Hebrew prayers in anti-Semitic Dublin. Dublin is a very anti-Semitic place. Ireland is a very anti-Semitic country. And I have achieved that goal just recently, marching through Dublin, 12,000 Irish Christians, and we sang in Hebrew, waving Israeli flags. So funny to see Antifa people lose their mind and they start crying as if they were allergic to God. So that's why I have decided to dedicate my life to making Ireland Jew-friendly. I want Ireland to be friends with Israel, and Ireland and Israel should work together in defeating both Hamas, Hezbollah, that we see Hezbollah and Hamas groups in Ireland, which is scaring people at the moment. I've been in libertarian circles since 2008, and now it's time to spread the message of liberty, even if it kills me. Live free or die. Erin Gabra, Am Yisrael, hi.